Okay, part 3. We were talking about this is done by subjects to alert law enforcement of cellular associated in a particular crime committed. I also know in numerous cases, subjects will survey an area prior to the day of the crime, depending on circumstances, several months prior. During these types of surveillance, it is possible for an individual would leave their cellular phone in a separate location. Sure, I mean, look, any criminal knows that. This isn't rocket science. What makes you believe he did that? Or are you saying this is what accounts, this is what I believe as an officer or the detective assigned to this case, I believe he did this because his phone only goes off and off cell towers when he's around this area. And before he gets to this area, it appears he's traveling to this area. Then his phone drops off. And then the next time his phone picks up, he's driving away from our suspect area. That ties it together. This doesn't say that. I just added that in on what I think he's trying to convey here. On December 23rd, I applied for and was granted a search warrant on his critical phone records. Sorry, I had to take a sip of my phone. I still got a cold, so I got to keep my throat kind of going. On November 12th, November 14th, phone headed provided AT&T 24 hours preceding the homicide. So it sounds like out of all this, he wanted AT&T cell phone records for the suspect's phone 24 hours before the homicide. That's what I would have said. On December 23rd, I applied for and was granted a search warrant for historical phone records between November 12th and 12 a.m. and November 14th for the phone held by the phone provider, AT&T, prior to 24 hours. Okay. He said it that way. I'd have said it a different way. On December 23rd, so the search warrant, I received records. These records indicated that suspect phone is subscribed to Bryan, the suspect, and the address in Pennsylvania. Okay, so now we have indicia or connection to the address, which is why they end up searching the trash at the address, because now we can tie him to that address. We could have done that with a vehicle registration and a DL by running his DL. If he gave that as his home address, I'd have tied it to him. These records also indicate Sterling Stonefeld, after receiving the information, I consulted with FBI special agent, blah, 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 cast members, certified FBI, blah, 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 everybody's expert, everybody, I concur with everybody agrees, both written and physical prior, certified, cast, completion, yearly certification. Jesus Christ, really, dude? Just you conferred with experts in cell phone data and they said the following, or their opinion is the following, and I concur with their opinion, which leads me to believe, blah, blah, blah. We don't have a lot of, this is why I believe what I believe in here. Written physical examinations, CAS complete, year certification. Additionally, FBI CAS, I consulted with 15 years federal law enforcement experience, which includes 6 years, Jesus, really, dude, for information provided by CAS. I was able to determine estimate locations of the suspect's phones for November 12th. All that to tell me you got an estimated location? Holy shit. On November 13th, at 2:45, the phone utilized cell tower resource and provided 16th East Valley Road. Hereafter, his residence. Okay, so on this date, I had the suspect's phone at the suspect's address. A little bit more simple? A little bit more clear? Does everybody keep up with that? Or is this better? If you think this is better, great. At approximately 2:47, utilizes cellular resources provided coverage southeast of the suspect residence, consistent with the phone leaving his residence traveling south to Pullman Road. I don't care if he's going to Pullman, Washington, or whatever. Is he going to the crime scene? Is he heading to the crime scene? He left his residence, and the cell towers indicate he's heading to the crime scene address. Okay, great. This is consistent with the movement of the White Elantra. Phone stops reporting on the network, which is consistent with the phone either being in the area and connection or disabled or putting the phone on airplane. Okay, so I would have just put at 4:07, the cell phone stopped sending signals to the cell tower. When a phone stops sending signals, there's several reasons this can happen. You could put it in airplane mode. You could turn it off. You could put it in a, I can't think of the bag now that we used to put it. You put a cell phone in a bag so it can't get anything, but whatever. So that's what I would have said. Okay, but he says, are the phones being turned off? The phone does not report to the network again until 4:48. Okay, again, I would tie this together. So we lost cell tower connection between 2:47 and 4:48 for 2 hours. What happened in those 2 hours? Where was he? Where was his car in those 2 hours? That's what you want to tie this two together. He's just kind of listing stuff, and again, it's very hard for me to follow. Utilize cellular resources, covered damage Highway 95, which means nothing to me. Near Blaine, which means nothing to me. North of, which means nothing to me. Between 415 and 526, unutilized resources are consistent with the phone traveling south on the State Highway 95, then traveling west. Well, if it's not connecting cell towers, how do you know he went west? Then look, Washington. At approximately 5:30, the phone is utilizing resources and provided coverage of Washington, which is consistent with the phone traveling back to suspect's residence. Okay. I assume that's what he's trying to get. It's not clear. I just got tired of reading all the freaking numbers and locations that mean absolutely nothing. Further review indicated that phone utilized cellular resource November 13th, consistent with cell phone, approximately 9 a.m. traveling westbound, specifically with the 548 because phone. Yeah, okay, we got it. The phone hit a lot of things at 11 different times and whatever. What does that mean? Below is not to scale a depiction of the possible route based on the cellular locations. Okay. So here's what we think he drove. I'm okay with this. The map sucks. I mean, at least give me some reference. If this is the route, is this the suspect home? Or is this the crime scene? Is this the suspect? There's no legend here. Or we're using the same old legend? Maybe the legend comes up later. I don't know. So I'm looking at a picture with nothing but questions. This is what's called a bad warrant or a bad affidavit in my book. This is when a DA reviewed it, he didn't ask the questions. When a guy's supervisor who wrote it, he didn't ask the questions. Okay, great, it's a picture. He drove either here or he drove here. Okay, great. What does that mean? Maybe we'll know. Investigators found that suspect phone did not connect to cell towers that provided service. But investigators do not believe. Why don't you believe? If you believe something or don't believe it, you need to say why. Do not believe the phone was in Moscow on the date. The phone was not connected to any towers that provided service. Okay. Based on my training and experience and the facts the investigators thus far, I believe that suspect, the user of the phone, was likely the driver. Why is he the driver? Do we have him on camera driving? Maybe he connected this and I missed the connection because I'm just being critical. But why do you believe? Why do you think it's likely he was the driver? How do you know he didn't have someone else driving? How do you know he didn't leave his phone? How do you know he didn't borrow someone else's phone? Was likely the driver that is observed departing. Based on my training experience, he was likely the driver. How about based on video evidence that I reviewed? I believe he was the driver. What are you basing your experience? I think a defense attorney will have a problem with this, but it's not going to mean anything. The judge signed it. He's under arrest. Even if the arrest warrant is bad, it's going to be stronger. They'll redo the warrant, and it'll be like, okay, whatever. He didn't do it right. He was in custody. Guess what? It's right now. The only time it would come in a problem is if he made a statement for this arrest, and we were trying to suppress that statement. Then, if we can find flaws in this, anything he said, we can get thrown out too. Now, it doesn't sound like he's making a statement or he said anything. So now if it gets thrown out, okay, it gets thrown out. Here, we'll redo it. Great. You don't lose anything. You only lose what you find after you do something wrong. All right. The vehicle likely suspect. Additionally, a route traveled. Suspect phone during the early morning hours. Lack of phone reporting is consistent with suspect attempting to conceal his location. Okay, I can believe that he probably did that. Whatever. All right. On December 23rd, I was granted a search warrant for suspect's historical CLI current perspective, and I don't remember what that is. That's probably cellular tower or whatever. Perspective location information PIN register trap to trace suspect phone to aid in the efforts to determine if suspect stalked any of the victims in the case prior to offense, conducting surveillance on the King Road address, on the crime scene address. Again, it just makes it easier to follow so you don't have to keep up. He's listed so many states and so many jurisdictions and so many this and so many dates and so many times, it's hard to flow. So when you use common things like suspect's phone, suspect's address or crime scene address or location of the crime or location of the stabbings, it makes it easier to for it to flow. was contact with the victim associated with before or after the alleged offense of any location that may contain violent evidence of the murders of town 23rd on a location of the white entourage as well. Shit. That freaking paragraph just sucks to me. Okay, on 23rd pursuant to search warrant, I received historical records. On the account, I was able to determine estimated locations, the suspect phone for the June time period authorized by the court. The records for the phone, suspect phone, show that suspect phone utilizing cellular resources that provided coverage to the area of the King Road address. I believe this is the crime scene address. At least 12 occasions prior to November 13th. Okay, so again, I would put, according to cell phone records that I reviewed, it looks like the suspect had been in the area and using cell tower by the crime scene location 13 times prior to commission of the crime. That's the way I would have wrote this. Okay? Whatever. All of these occasions, except for one occurrence in the late evening, early mornings hours of their respective days. Again, whatever. One of these occasions, October 20th, providing coverage to the King Road. This is the crime scene. For approximately 10:35 to 30. So he was there for an hour, it looks like. Suspect was stopped at the county sheriff, was stopped by county sheriff, the above mentioned, using the cellular resource consistent with the location. Why is that important? I don't know. I can't tie it together. In his mind, he ties it together. It doesn't flow, ties together. I mean, further analysis, yeah, a lot of analysis that doesn't mean shit to me because you're right and sucks. On a cellular data provided showed using satellite resources, November 13th, consistent with phone traveling from Pullman, Washington, into Lewiston, Idaho via U.S. What the fuck? Are you serious? At approximately 12:26, suspect phone utilized cellular resources to provide Kate's Cup Joe's coffee stand located. Surveillance located. Jesus Christ. And when I was reading this, I was saying the same damn thing. I'm like, what the hell is he? It took me forever to read this. I had to read it like 3 or 4 times to try and tie this together. Washington surveillance. And then he gives me another great picture. This picture happens to be a little bit better, but I just got an arrow here. I don't know what all these dites are. I can't read the highway. I don't know what road we're on. How does this picture clear up anything? Rick, why are you being so mean to this guy? Well, he writes a shitty freaking warrant. That's why. Additional analysis of the records of the suspect phone indicated that between approximately 5:26, so what? The phone utilized cell tower provided cover to reported approximately. This is consistent with the suspect phone being in the area of the suspect phone traveling any hours immediately. Whatever, dude. I don't even know how the judge read this shit. You know what? If I was a defense attorney, I'd be asking the judge, Judge, you signed this. What did you think he meant when he said this? Are you familiar with these locations? Judge, do you know what this means, traveling hours immediately? What exactly does that mean when you read this? Because the judge would be like, well, I'm not really sure. It sounded like, I mean, could any of you that read this one time, because we're assuming the judge didn't read this multiple times, you read this one time, you would absolutely know what's going on and it would be a clear picture on what happened. It doesn't paint a clear picture to me, and I've written a lot of warrants, and I should be able to filter through this. On December 27, Pennsylvania agents recovered trash from the residence of Albright. From the suspect family residence. That evidence was sent to Idaho Crime Lab on the 28th. The Idaho Crime Lab reported that a DNA profile obtained from the trash in the DNA was a DNA profile obtained from the sheath. Okay, so we connected him to the trash, to the address, the car to the address, and we had his cell phone in the area or going to the area. We've got more than enough to arrest this guy. This is an easy probable cause. Identified as a male, not being excluded. Biological father, 99%. Again, mine would have been the DNA from the trash of the suspect's resident address matched the DNA found on the scene. Done. Pretty easy. Matched the sheath. Based on the above information, I'm requesting an arrest warrant issued. So, this is where you should tie it together. I don't think this was tied together. I don't think this was a great arrest warrant. Does it really matter? Probably not. I mean, from a professional standpoint, if somebody that worked with me or on my task force wrote this, I would not be happy with it. And I would be like, dude, we got to do better quality work than this. I want people to read this, and I want a clear picture of what happened and what's going on and what we did and how we tied together. This was not tied together. There's a lot of information that can be tied together with a lot of effort, but the pictures suck. The diagrams suck. The flowing of this really sucks. So that's my review. And if you want to tell me I'm full of shit and I'm being mean, whatever. All right. This is part 3, 15 minutes. Maybe we'll discuss this on my next live, or I'll take, again, if you got questions, you can put them in the comments. I read the comments, and we'll end that there.